So there was an LGBTQ forum that took place in, I believe, I don't know where it was located, but anyway, there was an LGBTQ forum that multiple candidates were supposed to attend, and Bernie Sanders was one of them, but he was unable to make it. And the person that was hosting this was a trans woman by the name of Angelica Ross. Apparently, she's a TV personality, I think. She's an actress. And she called what Bernie Sanders did a huge, quote, a huge misstep. So, just to be fair and be objective, I covered a story a few weeks back, about how a bunch of candidates like Elizabeth Warren, Joe Biden, weren't able to attend a climate forum, like a climate town hall covering climate change. And I said, I thought that was a huge misstep too. So, and to be fair, I think it depends. Like, listen, at the end of the day, climate change is a serious issue. That does not mean LGBTQ issues are not important, but Bernie Sanders has been, and this is something I'm going to get into, but Bernie Sanders has been an advocate for the LGBTQ community for many, many years. I covered last, I think it was my last episode, my last podcast, about how, he basically created a trans mecca in Burlington, Vermont, when he was mayor of Burlington. And he was so in favor of the LGBTQ movement that nobody else, and when nobody else was in favor, that that people all these years later are still, they're still, praising him for it. At least the progressives are. People that obviously hate him just hate him no matter what. But the people that know what's going on with Bernie Sanders and know where he stands on issues, obviously are embracing him for this. So. But the point is that if he is not attending a LGBTQ forum, that doesn't mean he's anti-gay rights. That doesn't mean he's anti-LGBTQ people. That's not even remotely what it is. So if he's missing this event, it's not like, oh my God, Bernie Sanders, has a horrible track record on gay rights and a horrible track record on LGBTQ rights. So I can't believe that he's missing this forum. Like, the people that are getting pissed about this are the people that are going to get pissed about anything that Bernie Sanders does, so that they can just jump all over it and portray it as being something terrible. Like I said before, climate change is a serious issue, and the issue of climate change, global warming, is just not covered enough in the media. It's not something that's talked about, and it's something that the corporatists and elitists ignore. And when Bernie Sanders decides to attend an event like this, while somebody like Elizabeth Warren and Joe Biden don't, that's a big issue. And it's not like I said before, I think I said this on my last episode. It's not like LGBTQ rights are going away. It's not like gay rights are going away. Again, Bernie Sanders not attending this event does not mean that he is anti, gay rights. He's in favor fully of gay rights. He was in favor of gay rights 30, 40 years ago when nobody was even talking about it. Hillary Clinton just came out in favor of gay rights in 2013. Same with Obama. I believe his may have been 2014 or 15. I don't know what Obama was, but all these other politicians that everybody's like all fawning over and loving, and so many people in the gay community love so much, these people just came out in favor of gay rights. Bernie Sanders was in favor of gay rights 30, 40 years ago. They don't say shit other than the people that already know about him and know who what he stands for. But everybody else wants to portray him as if he doesn't care about gay rights, including this person calling it a major misstep or a huge misstep, whatever. So I just wanted to cover this article here. So this article from theguardian.com refers to Angelica Ross saying a huge misstep. Angelica Ross on Sanders' LGBTQ forum no-show. And then there's a part of this article that I'm going to quote here, and it says, so there was a question from the reporter or the journalist in the Guardian article. It says, what are your thoughts on candidates like Beto O'Rourke and Bernie Sanders skipping the event, referring to the LGBTQ forum? Sanders will also miss the next LGBTQ forum in October. So Angelica Ross says, I was disappointed to not see all of the candidates here. I was further disappointed to hear this was not the only LGBTQ forum or event Bernie was making other commitments for. You don't show up for both of our LGBTQ events? That's obviously telling us all we need to know. So this person has already decided, like they obviously already had a view of Bernie Sanders as supposedly being this anti-gay rights person, which is ridiculous, obviously, just like I explained. And they obviously don't know anything about Bernie Sanders, but they also have a preconceived notion about Bernie Sanders from, or at least what's said about Bernie Sanders, whether it's in the media or whether it's on social media, about his supporters as supposedly not caring about identity politics, and then him not caring about identity politics just because he said that identity politics is an important thing that should be focused on so much in 2016. All of a sudden, everybody thinks that he doesn't care about anybody's identity. So it's just stupid, and they're pulling it out of their ass. They're making a big deal out of one quote that he said all the way in 2016, and just because he wanted to focus on like specific policy like issues and positions, and because he didn't want to focus on identity, they think that he hates all other people's identities that's not like male, essentially. So anyway, it says, why do you, so they ask him again, or ask Angelica Ross again, why do you think Bernie has decided to skip the forums? Not sure why they're focusing so much on Bernie, but it says, I do have some inside information because I did try to do some digging as to why Bernie was not here. I sent out some questions to folks who were surrounding his camp, and that's when I found out Bernie had prior commitments. I'm going to risk being super real here for a second. When you're on the campaign trail, what's happening a lot, and what a lot of these candidates have to avoid, is being seen as looking for a photo op, to be seen in certain communities and spaces. I heard that he was not only visiting historically black colleges and universities, but also visiting an old black barbershop. I'm already struggling as a black trans advocate to get folks in my own black community to understand that being black and being LGBTQ are not mutually exclusive. What I hope Bernie would learn is you don't have to pander to just one aspect of the black community. If he would have been at the LGBTQ forum tonight, he would have seen we were talking about issues affecting people of color. I think it was a huge misstep on his part, and I'm not here for any of the excuses I say. Make it up to me, make it up to me, make it up to us. Like she's saying that she doesn't want somebody to say that. Okay, but anyway. Yeah, so listen, I mean, again, Bernie Sanders is not just trying to cater to the black community. When Bernie Sanders was running in 2016, everybody was saying, oh, he doesn't have any black supporters. Nobody in the black community likes him. He has so many white people supporting. He has so many people that, that are white bros and white, white people and white pro-white supremacists, whatever I don't know what people were saying. It was ridiculous. Just like everybody's white that loves him. That's pretty much was the narrative in 2016, even 2017 and 2018. All these people were just repeating the same old fucking bullshit, and they're still doing it to this day. And all of a sudden now, because Bernie Sanders has black support, now they don't like it. And there was even a tweet that went viral from this idiot Nate Silver, he's a pollster guy. He works he writes for 538.com. It's a publication. I think the New York Times operates it, or it's operated under New York Times. But he's the main writer for them, and he goes out there and he says something along the lines of, it's not that big of a deal that Bernie Sanders has blacks, supporters from the black community. They're just residue. He literally called the supporters that he has among African Americans residue. So like residue supporters. Nate Silver actually said this. It got so much attention on social media. The guy is such a jackass, and deservedly so. He got a lot of shit for it because that's a ridiculous thing to say, and it's honestly really racist coming from a white guy. All the people talking about how Bernie's a white guy and says things that people, the black community supposedly gets offended by. And then all of a sudden when this white guy says it, nobody says shit because Bernie Sanders is being attacked. So all the, people that, all the black people in the black community that hate Bernie Sanders, you don't hear them saying shit. So they're just like, yeah, who cares? Bernie's being attacked. That's wonderful. That's what I want to hear. Even if it's from another white dude that calls black people residue. So this is what people do. And there's so much hypocrisy when it comes to Bernie Sanders. There's this standard for Bernie Sanders where he has to meet these absurd levels of these absurd levels of like acceptance that if he doesn't do exactly what the people, specific people say, whether it's the black community, whether it's the white community, whether it's females, whether it's, Clinton, former Hillary Clinton voters, moderate, left of center, neoliberal center type voters. Like, he needs to always fit this standard of catering to people that like are supposedly like hurt by what he says about them, or the politicians that they support, or what his supporters say about those people or the politicians they support. So it's like they get outraged about everything. Bernie Sanders has to go out there and he has to be like a perfect angel. He can't criticize anybody without somebody getting fucking triggered and getting upset and making a federal case out of it. So that's just been typical. It's nothing surprising for those of us who are familiar with it, but it's just absurd how it just continues on and on and on, and people keep getting upset, finding ways to get upset about Bernie Sanders just because they want to find things to attack him on. So anyway, going back to this Angelica Ross person, so apparently she, according to an article from out.com, so I guess that's like a pro gay or LGBTQ publication, it says Angelica Ross leaves Twitter after abuse by Trump Sanders vote supporters. So right from the get-go, you can already see from the tagline of the article, the headline of the article, they're already trying to, as they usually do, something I've referenced before, they try and lump Bernie Sanders supporters with Trump supporters. They try and pretend as if they're the same because they're all white and they're all bros and they hate black people. It's ridiculous. I mean, that's typical, and this comes from the person that says, "Oh yeah, you shouldn't care about just the black community. You should care about, the LGBTQ community as well, and the people that are LGBTQ and black." Okay, well, you're obviously, your attempt at pretending. This is, to be fair, this is from the person that wrote the article. Her name is Serena Sonoma. So pretending as if as if the black community is, is not important to Bernie Sanders, and he hates them just like the Trump supporters hate black people. And then I want to just read kind of a snippet, a couple paragraphs here from this article from out.com. It says, Angelica Ross says she is taking a break from social media after a flurry of online harassment from trolls and outrage stemming from comments she made about Bernie Sanders and trans women following the LGBTQ forum in which Ross was a host. Ahead of the debates, the Pose and American Horror Story star questioned Bernie Sanders' absence. Sanders, who's the only major candidate to sit out an LGBTQ event, cited, quote, scheduling conflicts via a spokesperson as the reason for his absence. The candidate had prior commitments at historically black colleges and universities in North Carolina, as well as a tour of the International Civil Rights Center and Museum in Greensboro. And then so following everything that kind of happened, so for her deciding to leave Twitter, she posted on, I guess, her account, and then I don't know. Yeah, okay. So she posted on her account saying that, let's see, she posted on her account, so this is her official Twitter account. She says, so I spoke to The Guardian after the LGBTQ forum and held back nothing, spoke of the huge misstep from absent candidates as well as how I feel about my brother Karoma Brown's recent backlash. I don't know who that is. So what ended up happening is a couple people did respond to Angelica Ross on Twitter, and they told her how they felt about what she feels about Bernie Sanders, her opinion on Bernie Sanders and his position on the LGBTQ rights and the gay community, and gay rights. And so one tweet. And these are supposedly the tweets that are attacking her and smearing her and the reason why she decided to leave Twitter. So one of the tweets from one of the Bernie Sanders supporters, I believe there's 3 of them, it says, so are you insinuating Bernie does not care about the LGBTQ community? If so, then you are using your platform to spread misinformation about a man who has always been on the side of the LGBTQ community. You don't have to like him, but don't play loose with the truth. That's true. It's a perfectly legitimate thing to say. The next person says, to question Bernie Sanders' stance on LGBTQ rights is the most ridiculous thing ever and shows your bias against him. He's been an ally before it was cool and socially acceptable, while every other candidate just hopped on the equality train. Warren was a Republican not too long ago. Also true. And then the last one here. So this is a two-part tweet from the same person. It says, so it's homophobic to have prior obligations? I love how she made it a point to attack Sanders, but not the other candidates who couldn't attend, but continued to praise Warren, who used to be against gender-affirming surgeries for trans men and women. I did not know that. That's interesting. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not calling any Democratic candidate homophobic. I just don't like how Angelica Ross assumed Bernie to be homophobic by charging him with this minor offense. By her definition, a lot of candidates are transphobic, including the ones she praises. So that's perfectly legitimate. Every single one of these things that these Bernie supporters said is perfectly fine. So again, their attempt at lumping in these Sanders supporters with Trump supporters is ridiculous, because these are perfectly normal things to say in response to what happened. There was another tweet sent out by The Advocate magazine. I believe that's also a pro-LGBTQ magazine publication. And the tweet says, one of the reasons I'm here tonight is because the Trump administration is harming transgender Americans. Angelica Ross opens the LGBTQ forum with a rousing speech about why we continue to fight for equality. So, and then let's see, this is... I guess so. Apparently, Ross invoked Trump. So as they did in the Advocate article. I'm sorry, the Advocate tweet. They quote her, and then this is a portion of the article from the Advocate, and it says, one of the reasons I'm here tonight is because the Trump administration is harming transgender Americans. She said, so let's just review. Why don't we just a handful of those moves? The administration, so she says, why don't we, so let's just review just a handful of those moves. It says the administration moved to revoke trans healthcare and discrimination protections. They made it more difficult for homeless trans people to access shelters, and every education secretary, Betsy DeVos, however you say her name, her decision, these sentences are really, they don't make a lot of sense. Why would it say in every education? No, it says in Education Secretary Betsy DeVos, however you say her name, her decision to stop investigating the complaints of trans students hurts trans students across the country, when Secretary DeVos should be helping to make sure every student can learn. And it says the majority of the over 150 responses to the Advocate's tweet of that moment came from Trump supporters and religious zealots. And I'm going to read a couple of the responses here. But yeah, I'm sorry. That was just a little bit of a weird phrased sentence there. I guess they were quoting her directly, and they ended up quoting every word that she said when it wasn't grammatically correct. But anyway, so Trump supporters ended up responding in many disgusting and offensive ways, which is not surprising coming from these people. One person says, as someone who has supported the gay community for decades, has a gay sister, and had a living gay brother, and has countless LGBTQ friends and associates to say POTUS's administration is harming transgender Americans is not correct. Feel free to dispute or correct me. Hashtag don't lie and don't deceive. So that was actually one of the worse ones out of all the ones that I'm going to be reading. I'll read a few more here. The next one says, are you a man or a woman? Guess you're just nuts. Yeah, good one. Transgenderism calls God a liar. It says, I know better than God, and I was born the wrong sex. I was born a man, but identify as a woman, and vice versa. These lies come right from the pit of hell, and LGBTQ wants all to embrace those beliefs as acceptable. No, no, no. Okay. Next one says, just more proof that they're actually suffering from mental illness, and we're celebrating it. Wow. What a prick. The president has done nothing to harm anyone. Yeah, President Trump has been a fucking angel. You liberals would just love to see this country fail just so you can say you were right all along. Orange man bad. How sad. By not telling them their delusions about gender are right. So asking that as a question. And then that's when Angelica Ross responds by saying, going to take a break from social media for a while and let my team run my accounts. So I just read you those, 4 tweets? One of the tweets wasn't that bad. It was just saying that you're a liar, essentially. But all the other tweets that I just read were horrible. Those were like terribly, anti-trans, anti-gay tweets there. And so, but that's the thing. When you're comparing that to the, you're lumping those people in with the Bernie Sanders campaign and saying, oh, the Trump supporters and Bernie supporters are attacking me. That's not even close to true. Compare that to what the Sanders supporters said. All they said is that you are, you're misrepresenting Bernie's record on LGBTQ rights and gay rights, and they're calling you out for it. That's it. That's all they're saying. They're just saying that you shouldn't be lying about Bernie Sanders' record. Now, when it comes to Donald Trump, that is the things that she is saying about Trump is not wrong. He has treated the trans community badly. He's even treated trans soldiers, so members of the military that are trans. He's even treated them like shit too. So Donald Trump has not been a friend of the gay community. Now, there might be some gay people that are out there that are supporters of him, but that's the same thing as the black community, the small number of the black community and Latino community that support Trump. It's not very many of them, but that's not representative of his entire movement, because the majority of his movement are a bunch of right-wing Christian, white zealots. And obviously he has the support of, KKK members, white supremacists, neo-Nazis, all that stuff. So pretending as, again, that's a completely different demographic of people, different type of people. Just these comments show that these people are not even remotely close to what Bernie Sanders supporters are. We're not vile and hateful like that at all. But somehow, for some reason, people just seem to think that because Bernie Sanders supporters are so outspoken, that automatically means that they're like vile and, like I said, vile and, hateful and all that stuff. It's just ridiculous, man. That's not even close to true about Bernie supporters, and it's just a made up myth, and it's a made up characterization of people that truly do care about the country and are pro gay rights. They're pro peace, pro nonviolence. They're not racist. They're in favor of black rights and civil rights and all that stuff. In favor of gay rights, all that, women's rights, everything. So at the end of the day, this person is just trying to. This Angelica Ross person is trying to. She has a serious victim complex, and she's trying to pretend as if the Bernie Sanders, supporters in the community, the people that support Bernie Sanders, are going after her and smearing her and attacking her. And just because Trump supporters did it too, somehow that makes them the same as, that makes us Bernie Sanders supporters the same as the Trump supporters. It's not even remotely true. So if you can't tell the difference between that, then that's your problem. And honestly, that whole narrative seems to come from a media. Honestly, a media just kind of misrepresentation, and the fact that Bernie Sanders supporters dare to be passionate about their candidate and care about the issues and speak very openly and freely, somehow that makes them the same as Trump supporters. And I take very serious offense to that, because I completely disagree with that. I am very offended by that, because it's ridiculous. I do not want to be compared to Trump supporters. And the sad thing is that a lot of people that hate Bernie Sanders compare him and his supporters to Trump and his supporters. And that's truly, it's so bad. Like that's such a bad thing to say, and it's completely ridiculous, and it's not true at all. So the people that are saying that, shame on you, because you should not be smearing people that are trying to get all Americans, decent health care, getting them a decent education, getting them decent paying jobs, well-paying jobs, trying to help get a candidate into, or supporting a candidate and helping a candidate become president who's going to help all people, whether it's poor people, middle class people. He's going to be making sure the super rich pay their fair share. Bernie Sanders is doing something that's going to be helping all Americans, and the people that are going against him and hate him only hate him for his identity. and only hate him because he's a white man and he talks a certain way and he sounds angry. There was an article. There was a video that came out recently, released by this great. This guy, I think he's a videographer. He makes videos and then like edits them. And his name is Matt Orfilia, I believe his name is. And he released this great pro-Bernie ad. He made it, I think it's like a 5 or 6 minute ad, and he released it, and it's gotten tons of millions and millions of views, and it's showing how all the media is going after Bernie Sanders in like the most unfair way possible, and saying that he's angry and he's gruff and he screams a lot, he doesn't listen to people, and he talks over people and he yells at people, and then it shows videos of him going and listening to people's problems regarding medical debt and the fact that they can't get decent health care and they're dying from lack of health care, and they're suffering in multiple other ways. They're drowning in student loan debt. They can't have decent jobs because they can't find a decent job that pays them well. A woman that tried to get some insulin for her son or her daughter, one of her children, because her other child died from the fact that a vial of insulin cost too much. Bernie Sanders went with this woman to Canada to get cheaper insulin because it costs so much less there and than it does in America, where they price gouge the shit out of you. So Bernie Sanders, obviously, if he didn't give a shit about other people, then why is he going out there and helping people with all of their issues, all of their problems with, like I said, all these issues with healthcare, student loan debt, lack of jobs, all that stuff. He's helping all these people with all these things, and then the media wants to talk about how he's too angry, and you should be fucking angry. Bernie Sanders is angry because the fucking country is screwing people over. Why shouldn't he be angry? Why should Bernie Sanders go out there and portray everything as being, unicorns and rainbows? It's not like that. We've got serious issues in this country, and Bernie Sanders seems to be the only person who wants to address it and who is going out of his way to address it, while everybody else wants to just portray, unity and we have to get together and stuff like that. Bullshit, man. That is not the solution for our problems. The solution is to go out there and show how angry we are about all the problems that we're having in this country. And the only person doing that is Bernie Sanders.